Thanks everybody for being with us here in this tribute to Tim Bergling, Avicii, on April 20th. We want to commemorate his memory and continue his legacy. And so to do so, I want to have conversations with collaborators, peers, and people who knew Tim. Next, I'm going to have a conversation with Don Diablo, who obviously shared stages with him and knew Tim. Don, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Thank you so much for joining me and taking part in this tribute. You know, Tim meant so much to so many people around the world, and his legacy lives on. And I think if we can do something every year just to remind people and educate new people about who he was, we'll be able to honor his memory in a strong way.
100%.
You and I basically just met for the first time. It was last year at a radio conference, Carrie Vance's radio conference in Miami.
Correct. Yes.
And so just wanted to talk to you about some of the memories and experiences you may have had with Tim, but I saw that you had also released a tribute song to Tim. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, at that music conference, I ran into a lot of different folks: Aoki, Guetta, Lost Frequencies. But it was the first time I got a chance to meet you, and we didn't get a chance to even really speak about Tim at that point because just other things were going on. I'd like to hear from you some of your. When was the first time you had heard about Avicii? What was the first thing that sparked your attention to Tim?
I think it's like over 10 years ago. A friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, Lauren Padman, sent me an email actually from Australia. He was like, "You got to check out this guy from Sweden. He's a young kid, and he's making some amazing music. His name is Tim Bergling, and yeah, check it out." So
was he going by Timberg at that time?
Yeah, he didn't really have I think he didn't even have any music out at that point. These were just demos. So he was just asking me for my opinion. He was like, "You think I should sign him? Should I sign his record? You think he's talented?" I was like, straight away, just called him like, "Wow, this is super dope. You need to sign him." And that's how he released his first records. And yeah,
what was that label?
It was an Australian label.
Oh yeah,
Vicious. Yeah,
I heard about this.
Yeah, okay. Vicious. So yeah, and then from there on, obviously, it was crazy how fast it went. Like it's like one of those things as like the exception that kind of confirms the rule, as we say in Dutch. Like a whirlwind, honestly. Like just watching his career was like super inspiring because just one blow after another. Everything he did just kind of like connected, and is one of those sort of exemplary musical situations of like a legend in the making.
Yeah. So you got to hear maybe some of the stuff before Levels, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then
2 years before Levels.
I imagine then by the time Levels hit, you're like, wow, okay.
Do you remember? That was like mind blowing. Like literally, like.
Did you hear it out at a festival for the first time, or were you at home or in a club? Where do you think?
I remember I got a promo in my email inbox, and I was like.
So you're part of like a record pool or something? You're getting music from a bunch of people.
Exactly. So you get a promo before anyone hears it, like it's for the DJs, and I was like, wow. And I tried it out for the first time, and it had such an immediate response. Like it's like unprecedented. Like I think like even a week later, everybody was already singing along, and that's like. That rarely happens because usually people really have to get acquainted with a song.
Mm-hmm.
That became an anthem straight away. So yeah, and I think at that point in time I was like, wow, how is anybody ever going to top this? Because this is like, like it happens so many times in dance music. It's like somebody has a massive hit, and then that's it. And then gradually, I have so many friends out here in Holland who've had like similar like massive chart hits, massive club records, like #1 chart hits, genre defying, but they never and then slowly your career fades out.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it with everyone, like everyone, you know, all the colleagues, all my friends were like, this is gonna be a lot of pressure on his shoulders, like to top this. And then boom, you know, Wake Me Up came, and then like all these crazy records, and like it was like mind blowing, honestly.
Right. It was after Levels. I'd say, I was familiar with probably one or two sounds from Avicii, but I
Yeah.
had no idea who it was. It wasn't until Levels that I was able to put the name with the music, and still didn't have an idea of who he was. Um, but then I got connected through the record label to work on the True album. So that's when I really started to find out more. Were there festivals or anywhere where you guys had crossed paths backstage and had a chance to talk?
Yes, several festivals actually, but I think the one thing that kind of made like the biggest impression on me is probably that I saw him like I would say I'm not sure how many days, but it was days before his passing. Um, I saw him at the airport, um, and
Which
he
airport? What city?
it was in Amsterdam actually.
Hmm.
Um, but you know, I like I, I don't know. It's just it was this sounds very weird, but I was almost like afraid to walk up to him,
Oh yeah,
and
of
yeah,
course. I mean, I had the same feeling. Like even though we worked together, like there were times where I was like, I don't know if I should text him right now. He might be busy. I don't want to bother him, right?
yeah,
Because
exactly. Because by that time he was so big, it felt like he was so much bigger than me. So I was like, he probably doesn't want to speak to me right now. And obviously later on, like all these thoughts went through my mind. Like obviously I should have like that really kind of like made me realize you'd always, you know, do anything from your gut feeling and just do it. But yeah, that was really, yeah, I don't know, that was really just a special moment that stays in my mind because I, you know, like it made such an impact on me. And obviously, like he, it was crazy because with him, like the moment that really made most impact on me was his Ultra performance, where he played all of his new songs. You were there, I think, and you know, he really kind of reshaped the whole scene and how everybody looked at electronic music. And there were people like yelling boo, and you know, obviously it wasn't as loud and as compressed as all of the other music that was getting played because these were like mastered records that were like as loud as possible, you know, mastered. And there he was, just live instruments, you know, playing these songs, bringing in, you know, vocalists like yourself. And I was just sitting there behind my computer, literally like this is like the middle of the night in Holland, and I was just like, it really triggered something in my brain. Like, wow, okay, he just stepped the game up. I knew that was such a game changer, and I was like, wow, I think people might not get it right now, but they'll get it like within you know a very short amount of time, and then boom, all these records started popping off, and he went over levels, and he took the risk. You know, he really took the risk because he could have made like 12 more levels and just you know tried. And that's what most producers, what most musicians or creatives would do. But he took a massive risk, changed the landscape. Didn't you know? He just brushed off the criticism and that like made such a massive impact on me. And also what really kind of like inspired me was the way he started to collaborate with people. And he you know he had his own talent, but he was also able to give way to talent of other people. Because in our world it's really about like being very credible and doing everything by yourself and being the producer's producer. And you know there's a lot of pressure on our shoulders, lot of unnecessary pressure, to be honest, because of blogs, fans, haters, lovers, record labels, management, you know, publishers. There's like a million influences coming from a thousand angles, and it really, you know, it does your head in most of the times. To be honest, like I struggle with it on a daily basis. Imagine, you know, what he was going through on that level. Um, and I think, you know, like the risks he was taking, that really sort of inspired me and all of my peers to like look beyond what we were doing and, you know, not become that one trick pony, and also work together with other talented people from other genres even more than we already did. So, and also, you know, keep working with certain people because it's a very fleety business where we're like, you take little parts and then you move along. But Tim was really good at building friendships and you know kind of building genuine relationships. And then sometimes it's not even the first record or the second record, but sometimes the third record, that's the best record, that you could have done in that collaboration situation. And yeah, obviously you're a good example of that. And I mean, even the fact that you are doing this, that says it all. Like, most DJs work together with someone, they just get a top line in. They don't even speak to the person who wrote
Oh,
this.
that's true. It's sometimes just done through an email, and then the song gets made, gets released, and you never really meet unless you cross paths behind a festival stage or something.
Yeah, and exactly. And I think he really opened my eyes, like, hey, okay, you really need to step your game up. You need to learn more about making music. You need to respect other people even more. Respect input from other people, not be as dominant, but also kind of make way to different elements, while still maintaining your own sound and influences through a certain sound design or a certain melodic approach. I think that really opened my eyes, and that around that year was kind of my breakthrough, because I've been messing about for many many years, like with different genres, just making music. That kind of like opened my eyes to, like, hey, if Avicii can do it, he can create something with so many different people and different artists, and still maintain his own unique stamp, his own trademark sound. And that's kind of where I came up with my sound, and I felt very inspired by that, by creating a movement. And not only that, I went as far as, like, not just looking at production, but looking at building a real fan base, based on messages that come from your heart and that really go beyond sort of a sonic approach of making music. For me, it just became about really connecting with people and building something emotional. And my shows became super emotional. My fandom became very much more emotional. And there are actually a lot of people that have like Tim's tattoo like right next to my logo. I can, there's like dozens of pictures online, and I really kind of like, that's like the highest honor for me, because obviously he's been such a massive inspiration for myself and many of my peers.
Absolutely. I feel like, as you were mentioning, that moment where you were watching Ultra 2013 and experiencing this new music, but also seeing how the audience was reacting. And I felt that when I was on stage, I immediately felt, it almost felt like it was a vacuum got sucked in the room, and um, people were really expecting, like you said, fully mastered high pumping sound, and we came with acoustic instruments and vocals.
And country sounding music, like there was like,
Right.
like obviously now we see things as normal and we see them as accepted, and we it's kind of become the norm. But back then it was like, is he mixing country music with electronic music? That was like,
Yeah. Without any warning though. There was no
no. Yes.
demo out. He hadn't played it live so anybody could hear it. It was just, okay, this is the first time everyone's going to see it and hear it at the same time. And I remember that day, before we went on stage, seeing all the other acts performing pyrotechnics, lasers, cannons, girls in bikinis dancing on stage. And then here we come with a banjo and a violin and guitars and me with a microphone. And I even feel like the the front of house didn't turn on his turntables, or the guitar right at first. It was just my voice singing to no music. That's at least what I felt like. And
No, I
I
mean, there
was,
was a lot of room for error there. Like, there were a lot of things that could have gone better technically, but that's what made it so real. That's what made it feel like life and somebody taking a risk. And that's it's the same thing, like, with Tim. You felt everything he did was so honest. Like, I remember this video where he's like, I watched it like several times. He was just explaining how he makes music, and I remember, he was just kind of messing about, and literally just dragging notes left and right, and kind of like, that was the first time somebody was kind of really that open about it. Like, hey, I don't really know that much about things
the
that
technical side of music.
yeah, that you maybe expect me to know about, how to build certain things, but I know how to do what I want to make, how I know what I want to make, and I have that vision. And that really was like, yeah, like so honest and so open how he showed everyone. Like, oh, I think a lot of young producers looked at that. They were like, "That's how you do it." Okay.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
whole new instrument. I remember sitting with him in one of the studio sessions on a song that we ever released, and he was building the song one click at a time, almost dragging
Yeah.
to create the melody. And it was the first time I had seen it. I'd known about it because I have all these programs that I use, and usually, though, if I want to create something, I'll use a keyboard controller and play the chord or play the keys. I'd never seen anyone point click to drop the melody in, and he did it so fast, and it sounded so good. I was just really impressed, and
I mean, that's the beauty of it, right? Like he makes it look, he made it look like it was so easy, but at the same time, nobody could really replicate it. Or if people were replicating it, it was like, yeah, that's Avicii sound. Like, and
yeah, they were replicating his sound. They weren't inspired like he was, and he was inspired. These ideas were coming obviously from his spirit, you know.
that's, I mean, imagine that in a world where all music has been done, all creativity has like a recombination of everything you've heard before. That's like, yeah, and also like what I really liked about his music was like, you take like even like records like Pure Grinding or Sunset Jesus, these are records that may not have been like big singles that were on the radio all day, but these were all like amazing records. If you go back in retrospect, there really hasn't been a bad record, which
Mhm.
is like, that's like been my goal. Like, whatever I make a decision, like I want to uphold the same standards. Like, I think one day we have to look at it as musicians. We will no longer be here. Our music will still be here. We have our legacy. Obviously, Tim has like the most incredible, you know, beautiful
Catalog it.
catalog
Yeah,
that he's leaving behind, and obviously there was still more. I think that's like that's really sort of inspiring, and it's also like kind of makes you kind of go like, yeah, you know what? Maybe this record's not good enough.
right.
Maybe this is not a record I want to leave behind. Like, you know, I I know I think in a way a lot of people felt um, kind of related to Tim, not just through his music, but also through his soul. Um, his body language, his emotion. I know at least I did, and I know a lot of my fans. You know, they were massive Avicii fans, and the other way around. And a lot of people, when that happened, I remember when I heard it that night that Tim had passed. I honestly, I haven't. It was a long time since I cried that like that hard. Like I don't even
Yeah.
know, which is weird because obviously I've had a lot of dramatic things happen in my life, and I remember I was playing in a Vegas that night, and I was playing his songs, and I literally had to sit down on the floor for 5 minutes while the music was running while I was playing his music, and
And
yeah, I
and
played.
just let it out.
Sorry.
Just let it out.
I let it out, and it was like there was such a connection with the crowd, and I think musicians come and go, but like it's been such a long time since someone has made such a massive impact, leaving us. And I
Mhm.
think I'm not very worried that his legacy will live on for a long, long time. And yeah, it's really I saw this I saw this post somewhere was like we had like Tim's date of birth, and then it had like dash forever, and that
Yeah.
like that actually inspired me to like actually have it like I just got it done. Wait, I don't know if I can show it.
Did you get a new tattoo?
I got a new tattoo. Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
it says here like I don't know if it's mirrored, but it says like here,
Yeah, forever.
and that's going to be the title of my new album because like to me, music is forever, emotion is forever, and the connections that we make is forever, and Tim will live forever, and that really kind of like gave me that the power of that word was really sort of that was the moment when I saw that post. I was like, wow, this is powerful, and he is still with us. At the end of the day, this is just our physical form. Tim left us a giant present that we can open every single day, that can lift our spirits, that can take us to places when we close our eyes that never dreamed of going to. And yeah, I think literally it's going to be there's going to be generations of people like myself that are going to be inspired by him. That's going to basically sprout so many other creative ideas, so much more energy and music that I think um, this is just the beginning, to be honest.
Yeah, you've remixed some of his songs. What songs did you choose? Why did you choose them?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I after like I've always played like at least I would say two Avicii songs in my sets.
Per set, yeah.
Yeah, but I wanted to play more, but I felt like was like because I generally only play my own music.
Yeah,
Like this is another thing that actually happened, like that inspired me. It's funny, like while we're chatting, all of these things are coming back to me. When I saw that Ultra set, I was like, you know what? I should only be playing my own music in my
right. Because you're a creator. But
yeah. But why don't I have the confidence to play my own music? Because I've always felt so, I didn't have growing up. I didn't have a lot of confidence. I weighed like 35 kilos more. I had like, I wasn't the popular kid, and I was just the nerd behind the computer. And watching that set, like, but seeing Tim deliver that with so much confidence, music that people were like really sort of like kind of like at first like resisting against almost, which is like the worst feeling when you're on a stage. You have to play something new, and a lot of DJs take the easy way out, and that's now I just it really really sort of it hurts me because you have a podium, you have a stage, and you can do you can influence people.
yeah, it's the artist's job to direct culture and not to just follow what happened in the past.
Exactly, and that's why it kills me, like for my peers to like every week it's like no, play new music, create, like it's like we are creators, we are musicians, but unfortunately a lot of DJs, they choose to do the same thing over and over and over and over again. And when I saw that Miami set, I was like, wow, I need to start playing just my own music because I'm very proud of what I did. And then the year after, I had this song with Nuni Bao, who actually collaborated with Tim as well on a few records, called Starlight, and that was debuted by the Swedish House Mafia. And that's kind of where my journey started. And that's where I kind of like shifted. I was like, 90% of the music I play is just my own music, plus two records from Tim, just for inspiring me.
Right.
It's always like, but I did think to myself, I need to add my own little flavor to it. So yeah, I mean, I don't like. There's like several. I made several versions of Wake Me Up. Made
You'd
some.
have like one month you'd have one version and then you refresh it and do it something new.
Yeah, or I take something from me and I like I've been playing this version of Fade into Darkness because like obviously I will never get the chance to work with Tim, which is like very high on my list, and this kind of makes me feel like I'm kind of close to him, like it's like my tribute to him,
Yeah.
rather than me just playing his record and not doing anything with it, like emotionally or creatively. I felt like I need to, I need to do something, that really comes from my heart, that
Yeah.
melts your heart and becomes something new, and then my fans and your fans are connected, and this way, like like I can keep playing this forever.
Well, something that did come from your heart, you teamed up with Hilda, the
Yeah,
Swedish singer, and you made "Wake Me When It's Quiet."
how that went. That was like interesting actually. So it went full circle because here we are, like I think like 11 or 12 years later, the same guy, Lauren, who sent me the email about this kid, Timberg. It's like, hey, yeah, there's this Swedish girl, and she's never really released any music. She's at music school, but she's written this just an a cappella, basically. But there's no music. Can you take a listen? And I was like, wow, this girl she's never met him, but she was like, really, it really that really showed like how someone you've never met can make such a big impact on your
Oh
life,
yeah.
even in such a short amount of time, because she's really young. And so I heard the lyrics. I was like, wow. Initially they were like, okay, so this, can you make this into a Don Diablo song? I was like, well, no. I will add my name to it so it will travel further, but it needs to be a Hilda song,
Hmm.
Hilda, ex Don Diablo, and then obviously we need to donate all the money
Right.
to a cause that's going to help young people with mental illness and who are struggling with mental problems. And that's what we did. We were like, this is a way for us. Actually, two people who had never met 2 days before. I made the record in a day, released it 3 days later. It came straight from the heart. And then after that, I never really said it. This is the first time I'm really speaking out about this because obviously it's with you. So
Mm.
I feel like it's a bit more comfortable and it's a bit more relevant, but you're like also really afraid to say the wrong thing about anything nowadays.
Yeah.
So I feel like with music, and that's how I try to express myself. Like when my dad passed away, everybody felt Don is going to collapse and that's going to be the end of him because he was my best friend. And then, I managed to turn that into a song, and that was like around the same time, again, 2013. So it was like a really important year for me. Seeing that Ultra performance, kind of made me put all of it together. And this is like, uh, yeah, the perfect sort of thing for me to do from a personal point of view. Make a song. This is how I tell my story. It's with music. It's with melodies, um, without making it too obvious. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I applaud you for the way that you handled the Hilda record, and for this tribute, um, there should be a donation portion where people can make a contribution to the Timberg Foundation or one of the organizations that they support for mental health awareness. Um, but Don, thank you so much for sharing your time with me and remembering Tim in such a beautiful way. Really appreciate you.
Thank you, and keep doing what you're doing, man. Like I'm gonna work hard as well to keep Tim's legacy alive. And all my love to you, to all the Avicii fans, and hope to see you soon. We got to be making that record soon, hopefully.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Cheers, brother.